So welcome everybody to this webinar on XEVMPD. Today, my name is Marcos Fernandez and I'm here together with Veronica Baker. We are the XEVMPD business leads, and today we will be presenting this webinar. First of all, a couple of notes. So please note that this session is going to be recorded and will be made available through EMA corporate website and also in our YouTube channel. As you already know, throughout the session, you will be able to ask questions or give your input via Slido. Please take into account that the interaction via Slido is voluntary, and you may opt to remain anonymous while you are asking your questions. Nevertheless, if you choose to use Slido, you consent to process the processing of your personal data as it is explained in the EMA data privacy statement for Slido. You can see that here you have the QR code for joining the Slido page, and also you have the code that you can use to join the XEVMPD session, where you will be able to provide all your questions. You can upvote also the questions that you can see in the web page. Please make sure that before raising any question, if you can check whether this question has already been raised or not, so you can vote for it, and it will appear higher in the ranking of the questions that we will reply. So these questions will be shown on the screen and managed live in the Q&A session that we will have at the end of the presentation. We have EMA colleagues in the back and trying to address all the questions in writing throughout the session, but we will try to reply verbally to those answers that have not been answered and to those that has been most voted during the live Q&A session. If we don't have time, because we might have a high volume of questions, or we might not have the specific colleagues that are able to provide the answer, some of the questions might remain unanswered. So please take into account that we will check all those questions, and we may address those questions in other webinars or also in the FAQ documents that we have. In case you have any questions that is not specific for this webinar, and is a very specific question on specific issues or cases that you might have, please use Service Desk so we can track and we can investigate the different questions that you might have. In relation to the documentation, the presentations, and also the recordings, please take into account that the presentations are already available at the EMA events webpage. You can have a look and try to find these presentations based on the event date and name. And the presentation is available in the document section of the event page. In relation to the recording, we will make them available in due course on the EMA YouTube channel and also in the EMA events webpage. Nevertheless, if you would like to receive the recordings or the presentations via email, please take into account that you can register your email address in Slido, but you need to use a different event code. This is the one that you have here on the screen. An important note, please take into account that for best broadcast picture quality, we recommend you to adjust your settings by selecting the HD resolution at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. So that you can see here the different sport webinars that we have been hosting during last week and this week. We really apologize because this webinar was scheduled for Friday last week, but we had a major technical issue and we were not able to broadcast. So that's why we have moved now to the XEVMPD webinar to today. So we again really apologize for this inconvenience. Hopefully it's a useful webinar today and you will have get all the profit of the webinar. You can see here that we have already hosted several webinars regarding a sport, but we still have a couple of webinars during this week, like the EMA account management and also the sport API that is happening on the 12th of October. Now, if we go into the different goals that we have for this session, for the XEVMPD webinar, which are the goals that we want to achieve? So first of all, we want to recap on the XEVMPD submission requirements and the processes that are happening around the AMP, so authorized medicinal products, and also DMPs, the development medicinal products. We want to provide also an update on the planned improvements that we have for next year on XEVMPD. We want to give you an overview on the XEVMPD statistics, and I think something that everybody is looking forward is also to get more information on the relationship between XEVMPD and PMS. Here you have the agenda. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. We will go through different parts in this webinar. We will talk about XEVMPD and the processes around XEVMPD. We will talk about authorized medicinal products and also development medicinal products. We will give you an overview of the XEVMPD statistics that we have had for this half year. And there is also a section where we will provide you some information on documents that are related to XEVMPD and they are useful for you to review. And then we will go again to talk about the relationship between PMS, EAF, and XEVMPD, and something very important, the recent and planned activities that we have for XEVMPD. At the end, we will have also the Q&A session that hopefully will be very helpful for you. So let's start with the introduction on XEVMPD. As you already know, XEVMPD is a central source of medicinal product data. We are hosting in this database not only authorized but also unauthorized data. So authorized medicinal product and development medicinal product that are supporting different processes in the network. As you already know as well, this medicinal product data is submitted and maintained in XEVMPD by MA holders and sponsors. And EMA is checking the data that is submitted for the authorized medicinal products to ensure that the data is standardized. We are also providing customer support via the EMA service desk. Today in the morning, we have already had this, the webinar where we have explained how EMA service desk is working and how we manage with all the requests we received through this via. As you already know, XEVMPD database can be accessible through a user interface, so EBWeb, but it can also be accessible through the web gateway, so-called the API. Which are the pre-submission requirements in order to have access to XEVMPD? So first of all, the sponsors and the MA holders organization must be registered in OMS, but they also need to be registered in EUDRA Vigilance, so they would be able to report on medicinal products. We need to have a responsible person or the QPPV registered under the headquarter profile of the organization, but we also need to have the user roles managed in the EMA account management portal. Something that we will explain later is that at least one user from the organization must follow the XEVMPD training course because they need to be in the possession of the notification of successful completion of the XEVMPD training course. This is a requirement as part of the registration process in EUDRA Vigilance. There are two ways to get this training. The first one is the e-learning training course, and the other one is the face-to-face training course that for the moment is held virtually. If we go into the process to get the XEVMPD e-learning notification, here on the screen you can see the process that the user should follow. First of all, the user should submit the request for the registration via a service desk. Once this request is received, we register, we assess if we can allow the users to participate in the e-learning process. Sometimes it is not possible. If it's not possible, then we will advise the user why they are not allowed to be participating on the e-learning. One of the reasons might be, for example, that for each of the organizations, a maximum of 5 participants can apply to the e-learning course. Otherwise, in case the request is approved, then within 5 working days, we will provide the documents and the instructions to obtain the access to XCOMP and the provide the user with the credentials. Once the user has received all this documentation, then the user performs the assessment and submit the documentation for the evaluation of the different documents. EMA needs to perform the assessment. We have 5 working days to assess all the documentation. In case there is any problem and the user has not passed the exam, then the user will receive a new set of documents for a second assessment. In case the user has passed and everything is correct, then EMA will provide the user with the notification of successful completion of the XEVMPD training course. It is important for you to understand that the notification is required from one person during the initial registration of an organization in EudraVigilance. After that, the trained users can train other users in their company. As you can also see here, each person has 3 attempts for each failed part of the e-learning training. We also have the face-to-face training, as we already said, for the moment is held virtually, but the user needs to register for a specific training in a specific date with the IA, who is our training provider. Then the user will attend the training. He or she will perform the assessment, and the assessment will be evaluated by the trainer. If the assessment it's failed, then they will receive a new set of documents to perform the evaluation. And if the evaluation is correct and is passed, then the EMA will provide the notification of successful completion of the XEVMPD training course, and you can start proceeding with the registration in EudraVigilance. There are 2 ways of submitting data into XEVMPD. As you can see here, the electronic format for submitting data to XEVMPD is what we call the XEVPRM, and you are able to submit this information through 2 ways. The first one is through the web trader submission, so using the user interface, EVWeb, but the other way would be through the gateway transmission mode. The XEVPRM acknowledge will be provided to the sender organization after each submission. We will provide a bit more information later on this regard. In this slide here, what you can see is the registration process on EudraVigilance. First of all, as we have already explained, one user from the organization needs to attend the XEVMPD training course and needs to obtain the notification of successful completion of the XEVMPD knowledge evaluation. The first user then will register with the EMA account management portal, and it is very important that the organization is created in OMS. If it is not created in OMS, then you first need to submit all your information, so this organization will be created. Once it is created, then there should be at the EMA account management portal, there should be a request for the responsible person or the QPPV role. Once this has been done, then you need to submit a ticket via the EMA service desk with several documentation. You need to make a reference to the role request ID that has been generated in the EMA account management portal. You need to provide different supporting documentation. And if needed, if you are going to submit your data through a gateway, then you also need to provide all the gateway connection details. Once this has been submitted in your EV restricted area, you will need to go and complete update information in the Manage Your Profile section. You will receive the confirmation about the submission mode setup. So either if you are going to be a web trader or a gateway submitter, you will receive a confirmation. And then the approved user roles in the EMA account management portal will happen, and therefore your organization and your users will be registered. There are some links here in the presentation where you can see the different steps you need to follow for the registration in EudraVigilance. please take into account that for non-commercial sponsors, the EV registration team is providing additional support. So please go and check the information on the webpage because it might be useful for you if you need any support on the registration. If we jump to the next section, we will have the XEVMPD process. In this case, where we want to represent with this slide is the different services that EMA and the XEVMPD team is providing in relation to the data that we are receiving. So as you can see here on the left side, we have the sport users. So we have the MA holders or the sponsors that are submitting the data for the authorized medicinal products or the development medicinal products. Once this data is captured in XEVMPD, we have the EMA data stewards who are performing the data stewardship. We have data services. So for example, we are proactively doing data curation. We are doing AMP validation. We are doing data standardization. And we are also doing some data cleansing and corrections. As you already know, we are performing some follow-ups with different users in case there is data missing or in case we are not able to validate specific records because the data that has been provided is not correct. What we are also doing is some data publication. So every month we made public a list of all the authorized medicinal products together with the pharmacovigilance contact details, apart of other publications that we are doing. We also give customer services support. So whenever a user is open a ticket in ServiceNow for because they want to have additional information, because they are requesting some services, or because they are reporting technical issues, we are in charge of checking and investigating any issue that might be related to XEVMPD. As well as business leads of XEVMPD, we are doing some data quality management. So for example, we are doing quality control of the perform activities that are happening in our team. We are doing, for example, sampling and checking of the data validation. We also do data profiling. We monitor and we investigate. We do investigation across the entire data that we have received in XEVMPD. Moreover, we are doing some quality assurance. We are trying to investigate the root causes and trying to improve all the processes that are around XEVMPD. So for example, the follow-up notifications because the QPPVs that are reported in XEVMPD are wrong. These are different, for example, a process that we are trying to improve during this year. What we are also doing is service management. So we do service coordination with the with data governance and IT delivery. We are working really closely with the IT department to make sure that the system is working properly. If there is any change that has to be done in the system, we are making sure that the system is behaving correctly, etc. And of course, we are doing some performance management. So for example, the invoicing, the KPI reporting, the customer satisfaction, these are all the activities that we are doing around the XEVMPD data that we are receiving. In relation to the authorized medicinal products, so the AMPs in XEVMPD, you know there is a legal obligation from Article 57 where the EA agreement and the protocol on Ireland and on Northern Ireland that states that MA holders must submit to XEVMPD information on medicinal products for human use that are authorized under a national mutual recognition, a decentralized or a centralized authorization procedure in EU, EA countries and Northern Ireland. You already know that you have 15 calendar days to submit the data of newly authorized products and 30 calendar days to submit the amendments or changes that are happening to those authorized medicinal products. So for example, after variation, after the transfer, a renewal, a suspension, etc., you have 30 calendar days to update the information that is captured in XEVMPD. Nevertheless, there are some, let's say, products which are not in the mandatory scope of XEVMPD, so some of them are voluntary reporting for the MA holders. For example, you have here those products that, or yeah, this type of products that are out of a scope of Article 57, but can be submitted to XEVMPD. We are talking, for example, about the herbal medicinal product or the homeopathics. We are talking about the named patient use and the EU distribution procedure, the parallel distributed or imported medicinal products. We talk about the medicinal products authorized outside the EEA or that are not following a non-EU procedure. But you can submit any product that you would like to have in the XEVMPD. There is no restriction to that. They will just be excluded, for example, for the charitable units, for pharmacovigilance fees, etc. But this can be submitted to XEVMPD. What's the process that we are following right now for the initial submission of authorized medicinal products? So first of all, the authorizing body, either EMA or a national competent authority, is approving a medicinal product, a marketing authorization application. So the MA holder has 15 calendar days from the date of authorization, from the date when they receive the notification of the marketing authorization, to submit the initial set of data. This information should include the MA holder, the pharmacovigilance system master file, the QPPV information, etc. Apart from other information like the pharmaceutical dose form, the data regarding the pharmaceutical product, and this has to be supported by the different documents such as the SMPC or the pill. Once this information arrives to XEVMPD, we perform a technical validation. This technical validation is just checking that the data that we are receiving is in compliance with some rules that we have captured in Chapter 3.1 and 3.2 of XEVMPD. Once this technical validation has been passed and you have received the first and the second XEVPRM acknowledgement, EMA has 2 weeks since the initial submission to perform the validation. In this case, we are using the documents that you have provided as part of the initial submission, but also the business rules that we have described in Chapter 3.2, in the data quality control methodology, and some other rationales that we use to assess the data that has been submitted. Once we perform the content validation, we can have 2 different outcomes. If we go to the lower part of the diagram, we can see that, for example, the product entry cannot be assessed. In this case, we are raising a follow-up communication with the MA holder that will receive this communication via email. It can be, for example, because the documents that has been provided is not enough, or because the data that has been provided is wrong. You will receive the information on the email that we are sending. In that case, the MA holder needs to amend the product as required and provide additional documentation if needed, and you would have, as specified in the follow-up, 15 or 30 calendar days to amend the data. In the case we are able to validate the data, then we can we have here 2 scenarios, because the validation can be done with or without changes made as part of the validation. Whether it's the first or the second, you will receive a 3rd acknowledgement that is important for you to check, because there is where you can find information in if we have made any change to the data that you have provided. Once we have validated this information, the authorized medicinal product record is visible to other users in EBWeb, not only the owner organization and the EMA. We are just hiding the master file location data and the QPPV details, as this is personal information. These AMP records are now used to support the pharmacovigilance activities. In the case the MA holder disagrees with the changes that we have made as part of this initial validation, we request you to please submit a ticket via the EMA Service Desk portal, providing the information, the EV code, what's the change that we have made, why do you not agree with this change, so we can check if you are right, and therefore we will revert the validation. In the case on the amendments, as I said before, you have 30 calendar days from the date when the amendments were authorized. You might need to insert, update, or invalidate authorized medicinal product data in XEVMPD. Again, you need to follow our Bible, which is the chapter 3.2, so you can see all the business guidance, the business rules that you need to follow. And obviously, again, you need to insert and make reference to the supporting documentation. Once this is submitted, you will receive, there will be a technical validation, and you will receive the first and second acknowledgement. And we will perform a content validation or a standardization of the data that in the cases of the updates, we are performing within 2 years since the last validation of a product. Some additional checks that we are performing at EMA is, for example, for new caps, we are checking that the number of presentation in SciAmed in our internal database is the same as the one that we have in XEVMPD. Then this information, the product information, is entered in the EMA scientific group table and also in the European Pharmacovigilance issues tracking tool. In the case of caps that are not inserted after 15 calendar days, then the QPPV is contacted because there is a legal requirement to have those products in XEVMPD. We are following a similar approach for the transfer caps. We are checking that the former MA holder has invalidated the authorized medicinal product record and that the new MA holder is submitting the new record as part of the transfer. Again, if the transfer records have not been submitted within 30 calendar days, then we are contacting the QPPV to make sure that these records are submitted. In relation to data publication, as I said before, every month we are making public a list of medicinal products authorized in EU and EEA. You have a link here on the presentation because what we are doing with this report is to share the MA holder's pharmacovigilance contact details. We provide the phone number and the email. And for some of the products, we are already raising that the QPPV details or the PSMFL location should be provided because it's not correct in XEVMPD. So it's interesting for you to have a look at this this report that we are making public because some of the products don't contain the pharmacovigilance inquiry information correctly. Obviously, and Veronica is in charge of that, we are also performing some updates on the documentation. So, for example, chapter 3.2 is updated accordingly if there is any change. We are also updating our Q&A documents, and any document related to the XEVMPD processes are updating if needed because there has been a change on the legislation or a new processes is in place. And over to you, Veronica, for the...
Thank you very much, Marcos. With regards to development medicinal product submission requirements, please note that the Jones Medicinal Product Dictionary is actually mentioned in 2 pieces of legislation. One is the detailed guidance on the collection, verification, and presentation of adverse event reactions reports arising from clinical trials on medicinal products for human use, as we refer to it, CT3, which says very clearly that the sponsor should provide before completing the clinical trials application form information on the IMP in the Jones Medicinal Product Dictionary. Regulation number 536 from 2014 on clinical trials on medicinal products for human use also makes reference to the Medicinal Product Dictionary. As I've mentioned before, and over again, sponsors are the ones who need to submit the medicinal product information in the XEVMPD before completing the clinical trials application in CTIS. Please note that although the legislation does not cover the product information update in the XEVMPD, it is required to maintain the information up to date in clinical trial information system. As you know, clinical trial information system takes data from the XEVMPD. Specifically, this data is the EU substance number, which you need and the EU product number which you need to register a clinical trial in CTIS. To search the CTIS to search CTIS, you must reference both of these values, which is the EU substance number and the EU product number, together in CTIS. What is the EU substance number? Well, that is the substance EV code in the XEVMPD. That is a code which is assigned to a specific substance record in the XEVMPD, and that is the EV code of the substance that is referenced as an active substance in the development medicinal product. As you might be aware, substances are inserted in the XEVMPD by the EMA Substance Management Service data stewards, and these are inserted on request from marketing authorization holders or sponsors from clinical trials. If you need to find a substance in the XEVMPD and you have access to EVWeb, which is the user interface for the XEVMPD, you can search for the substance in the XEVMPD substance lookup tables. Sponsors without access to EVWeb can download the current and non-current substance list in the SMS portal. If the substance is missing and you need to have this substance available in the XEVMPD to reference it in your development medicinal product in the XEVMPD, you can request the addition or update of an existing substance in the XEVMPD via an EMA service desk request for SMS services. You will be asked, or you will have to provide some basic information such as the brief description of the substance, a substance request form, which you can actually download from the request for SMS services form in the EMA service desk. And you will also need to provide some supporting documentation, such as, for example, the investigators' brochures or the SMPC, etc. The EMA data stewards will validate the request, and if it is approved, an EV code will be assigned to the substance and shared with the requester. The data is updated in the SMS and also published in the consuming systems. And also the substance will become available in the XEVMPD, which means that you will be able to reference this substance in your development medicinal product. If the data steward rejects the request for the insert or update of the substance, they will provide you with the reason for rejection. What is the EU product number? Well, this is a question that we are asked quite often. It is simply the product EV code, which is a code assigned to a specific product record in the XEVMPD. As you are aware, authorized medicinal products are inserted in the XEVMPD by marketing authorization holders. Unauthorized, as we refer to as development medicinal products, are inserted in the XEVMPD by sponsors. Please note that the EMA does not enter information about authorized or unauthorized medicinal products in the XEVMPD on behalf of the sponsor or the MAH. We do not do that. It is the marketing authorization holders and sponsors' responsibility to ensure that the medicinal product information is entered in the XEVMPD. If you need to find an EV code of an authorized medicinal product, then again, if you have access to EVWeb, the user interface of XEVMPD, you can search the XEVMPD to find that product code. If you do not have access to EVWeb, you can actually submit a new EMA service desk request for XEVMPD Article 57 services. In that request, if you specify the name of the medicinal product, authorization number, authorization country, and the name of the MAH, in response to your ticket and to your request, we will provide you with the EV code of the authorized medicinal product, if it is available. We perform the search based on the specified criteria and provide you with this information within 5 working days SLA. With regards how to obtain a product EV code of a development medicinal product record in the XEVMPD, as mentioned before, the sponsor must submit the medicinal product information themselves in the XEVMPD. There are 2 simple rules. If an active substance is used in a clinical trial in a new pharmaceutical dose form, or in a new strength, then you as a sponsor must submit a new development medicinal product entity in the XEVMPD. If the medicinal product which is not authorized in the EU EEA is used in a clinical trial in the EU and EEA, you again should submit a new DMP in the XEVMPD. Providing that the submission was successful, the development medicinal product EV code, which is the EU product number, will be shared with the sponsor organization that submitted that information via an XEVPRM acknowledgement. These are sent back to the sender IDs of the sponsors who submitted this information within 24 hours. And if, again, the product was successfully inserted and therefore an EV code was assigned, the product EV code will be retrievable in CTIS the next day. Now, let's talk about the initial submission process in a little more detail. So sponsor submits development medicinal product data in the XEVMPD. So first and foremost, as my colleague Marcos mentioned before, you must be registered with EudraVigilance to submit medicinal product information in the XEVMPD. You are requested to insert the development medicinal product information according to the information in the investigator's brochure. If in the DMP, you have to reference the sponsor organization. If this is not present in the XEVMPD sponsor lookup, you have to insert it in the XEVMPD. The same with an active substance. If you're looking for an active substance which is not present in the XEVMPD, this must be inserted in the XEVMPD. You have to submit a request to the SMS services via the EMA service desk to ask for this substance to be inserted in XEVMPD to have that EV code to reference in your development medicinal product. Once you submit the medicinal product information in the XEVMPD, there is a technical check by the system, not by the humans, which basically ensures that you have provided the information in accordance with the technical and business rules in place. The first and second XEVPRM acknowledgements are generated. Please note that there is no validation or development medicinal products. There is no dedicated validation by a validation team at the moment. Every development medicinal product which is submitted in the XEVMPD after 2016, I believe, is automatically made valid, which means validated, by the system to ensure that this product is then used to support pharmacovigilance activities. You as a sponsor submit the information, you should receive the acknowledgement and check if the acknowledgement contains the EV code of the medicinal product. If yes, then as I said before, the EV code is assigned, the entry is flagged valid, and then the DMP EV code will be retrievable in CTIS the next day. If for some reason the acknowledgement says that your medicinal product information was not successfully submitted, there will be an error which says that something needs to be corrected in the submission. So this is why you always have to refer to the XEVPRM acknowledgement. If you are WebTrader users, you can find the acknowledgement in your WebTrader inbox or archived inbox. Be aware that after, I believe, 1 week, messages from the inbox section are archived in the archived section for 7 days, then 30 days, and then I believe are any archived messages that you receive. So always check the relevant archived inbox section. Gateway users have to consult the internal system and check the acknowledgements. If the insert is unsuccessful, as I mentioned before, you are requested to check the acknowledgement and correct the data in the XEVPRM and resubmit your file. If you have any questions or request support from us, please contact us through the EMA service desk. You should either ask us a question, which means you submit requests for information related to XEVMPD. You can also request a service in case you need to receive an acknowledgement which you cannot find, for example. This would be requested through a request for XEVMPD services. A couple of points that you need to consider for the submission of development medicinal products. If an active substance is studied in a clinical trial in the same pharmaceutical dose form, however, for different strengths, you need to enter separate development medicinal product entities in the XEVMPD for each of the pharmaceutical products. So if you look on the left-hand side of your screen, this is a visual interpretation of how an incorrect submission is made. So in this particular case, an active substance, substance 1, is studied in 3 different strengths in the same pharmaceutical form. The way it is inserted is incorrect because this way only one development product EV code would be assigned to the record. And the way I would see this medicinal product is that this is a combination medicinal product. So the subject of the clinical trial receive 3 identical capsules with the identical substance, however, in different strengths. So the correct submission would be that you submit 3 development medicinal products, each referencing the same pharmaceutical form, which is capsule in this case, each referencing the same substance as the active substance, however, in different strengths. So if you look on the screenshot on the right, that is the correct way of submitting the product information. You will have 3 development product EV codes, which means that you will be able to find these in CTIS under those 3 EV codes. If an active substance is studied in a clinical trial in the same strength, however, in different pharmaceutical dose forms, again, you should submit separate development medicinal products in the XEVMPD for each of those pharmaceutical products. Again, the reason being that an EV code will then be assigned to each development medicinal product. So in this particular scenario, the same active substance is studied in the same strength, however, once as a capsule, once in a film-coated tablet, and once as a solution for injection. The screenshot on the left shows an incorrect submission because only one development product EV code would be assigned to this particular entry. What you should do, in fact, is submit 3 development medicinal products in the XEVPD, 1 reference in a capsule, 1 reference in film-coated tablet, and 1 reference in solution for injection. And then you will receive 3 development product EV codes, which you will be able to retrieve in CTIS. A very frequent question that we receive through the EMA service desk is, do we have to submit a medicinal product information in the XEVMPD when we know that the same medicinal product is already studied in a clinical trial by different sponsors? The short answer is yes. If the same medicinal product is studied in clinical trials by different sponsors, then each sponsor must submit the development medicinal product information in the XEVMPD. Again, an EV code will be assigned to each of those development medicinal products, and this is because each DMP in a clinical trial must be uniquely identifiable, any sponsor specific. As you might know, any data that is entered in the XEVMPD as development is strictly confidential and therefore only visible to the sponsor organization that owns this product in the XEVMPD. And also, moreover, any update of this data can only be performed in the XEVMPD by the sponsor organization that owns that product in the XEVMPD. So as you can see in the interpretation below, if sponsor A, B, and C all study exactly the same medicinal product with the same active ingredient, strength of the active ingredient, pharmaceutical form, and route, 3 different EV codes will be assigned to these 3 products, and then each of those will be visible to the relevant sponsor organization, obviously the EMA and the National Competent Authority as well. But there is no way that sponsor A would be able to view information about the development product which was submitted by sponsor B or sponsor C. With regards to auxiliary medicinal products, as we know, these are defined by regulation as medicinal product which is authorized in accordance with regulation number 726 from 2004. So if a medicinal product exists with a valid marketing authorization in the EU and EEA, the product is submitted in the XEVMPD by the marketing authorization holder as per Article 57(2) legal requirements. If this product is then studied in a clinical trial in its authorized form, which means the pharmaceutical dose form is the same as authorized, the active ingredient and the concentration are the same as authorized, then in the clinical trial application form, the sponsor makes reference to the AMP entered in the XEVMPD by the marketing authorization holder. The sponsor does not need to insert this medicinal product information in the XEVMPD as a development product. If, however, this product is studied in a clinical trial in different pharmaceutical dose form or different composition, which means different active ingredient or concentration, then the sponsor must insert a development product entry in the XEVMPD and makes a reference to this development medicinal product EV code in the clinical trial application form. With regards to medicinal products with a valid marketing authorization outside the EU or EEA, please note then if you are using it in its authorized form, because the product is not authorized in the EU or EEA, you as the sponsor must insert this medicinal product information in the XEVMPD as a development medicinal product. And it is the same if this product which is not authorized in the EU and EEA is studied in different pharmaceutical dose form or composition, then again, you as the sponsor must enter a new development medicinal product information in the XEVMPD. And now I'm going to hand over to my colleague Marcos again for some XEVMPD statistics.
Thank you, Veronica. So, yeah, here you have some graphics where we would like to show you some statistics that we have. In this case, is only based on the numbers that we have been able to collect for the first half of this year. So as you can see here in the first graph on the left-hand side of your screen, we have the data services. So how many records have we validated during the year? So from January to June. You can see, so in the light blue is the data services, and in dark blue is the service desk request that we have received so far. Just as a summary, you can see that the number of tickets is increasing every year. We are receiving more tickets every year. And based on the analysis that we have performed, we have seen an increase on the requests and on the operational questions that we are receiving. On the other hand, the data services, so the number of records that we are receiving and the number of records that we are validating, is consistent within other years. In relation to the overall compliance, so 100% of the requests for information met the SLAs. 82% of the requests for services met the SLAs, and in relation to the incidents, 90% of them met the SLAs. So here on the right-hand side, you can see the overall compliance, which is still within the target scope that we have for our team. Veronica, I think you need to come back to the documentation.
Yes, thank you. So where you can find XEVMPD related documentation and help that you might find useful. So the EMA corporate website is the best place for the documents which are providing an overview of the reporting requirements for marketing authorization holders. We have a guidance document webpage where you can find any information related to submission requirements for marketing authorization holders. There is also a dedicated webpage for sponsors. Again, there is a guidance document and actually an FAQ document available for sponsors that they can refer to with regards to their submission requirements. If you need to find out information about how to register with EudraVigilance for product reporting, please go to the EudraVigilance website, again, on our EMA corporate website. EMA Account Management Portal provides guidance on how to obtain and access EMA systems, which includes SPOR and XEVMPD. You should request the relevant roles through the EMA Account Management Portal. You can also create a new EMA account and request SPOR user roles as applicable. In the EudraVigilance restricted area, which is the area that you use to access the XEVMPD user interface, which is called EVWeb, you can also access other EV services, for example, the XEVMPD export and bulk update, etc. There is also a user support section where you can find some technical documentation. With regards to training, we do have an EMA info channel, which contains the videos of SPOR webinars with tips and tricks and questions raised by users. And we also have an XEVMPD training webpage, which contains overview of the available training courses, all the training documents, and step-by-step guides. And last but not least, as I mentioned before, there is the EMA service desk, where you can request information or support with XEVMPD data management, report technical issues as applicable. This is all managed through the ServiceNow portal, and we did have a webinar on this particular tool early today.
Okay. Let's start with the funny part on XEVMPD and the relationship we have with PMS and with EAF. In this section here, there are some, let's say, topics that we have already explained, but we also have a new concept as for example, the XEVMPD to PMS deltas that we will explain. So let's go for it. As you already know, and we have explained this already in different webinars, but here we are again, so it's very important for you to pay attention to this information. As you know, we have SIAMED2, which is the EMA internal database where we have our CAP product data. This data has been mapped to the different SPOR services. So we have mapped the data to SMS, OMS, and RMS. And we have already performed a migration of this data to PMS, which means that PMS already contains centrally authorized products and the data that is captured in SIAMED2 from 2022, so from last year. What we are doing right now is taking the data that we have in XEVMPD, where we have CAP and non-CAP product data. We are doing a mapping as well of the data that we have in XEVMPD. We are mapping again to RMS, OMS, and SMS. And we will be performing a migration of non-CAPs, first of all, but we will also be doing a match and merge of centrally authorized product data. In this case, it's a bit different because as we already have the centrally authorized product data in PMS, we need to match and merge those products with the ones that are coming from XEVMPD. What will happen in that case is that PMS will contain centrally and non-centrally authorized product and the data from SIAMED and XEVMPD. Once this data is arriving in PMS, it will be available for the EAF through the PLM portal, as you might also already know for other webinars that we have had together with the EAF team. What is the data that we are taking in XEVMPD from XEVMPD to PMS? This is a famous diagram. It's a little representation of the data model that we have for PMS, and you can see here in the legend a color coding of which are the data elements that are coming from Article 57 in yellow, which are the fields that are coming from SIAMED in blue, and then we have sections where we have a mix. We have, for example, missing data in gray. We have the medicinal product name. Some of the data is coming from XEVMPD, but some of the data is missing. For the packages, we will have data coming from SIAMED, but some of the data will be missing. For the pharmaceutical product, all the data will come from Article 57, etc., etc. So that is a representation on where the data in PMS will come from. Also something very important and that we missed to explain in other XEVMPD webinars is what is the data that we are going, or which are the records that we will migrate from XEVMPD. As you can see here, only XEVMPD records with data in the following fields are going to be migrated. So if you have a record in XEVMPD without an authorized pharmaceutical dose form, or where the legal basis is missing, or the medicinal product type is missing, then these records won't be migrated to PMS. So for a record in XEVMPD to be migrated into PMS, we need to have data in those fields. Moreover, we will not migrate products where the authorization status is non-valid, superseded by marketing authorization transfer, or not valid, superseded by marketing authorization renewal variation. So we will migrate all the records where the authorization status is different to those ones. And which is the version of the product that we will migrate? That is also a question that we receive quite frequently. We will migrate the last version of non-nullified records in XEVMPD. That means that this version can be a version submitted by the MA holder, or can be a version that has been reviewed and updated by EMA data stewards. So that is important for you to understand. So in a nutshell, for a product to be migrated to PMS, we need to have data in these three fields that I have said before. The product should not be nullified, and also should have a different marketing authorization status than this non-valid, superseded by transfer or superseded by renewal. The rest of the records will be migrated to PMS. How are we going to group those records in PMS? So, for example, for non-caps, you know that depending on the country, we can have the information in XEVMPD at the presentation level. So, for example, we have one EV code per presentation, or we can have the submission done at the medicinal product level. So no presentation are submitted to XEVMPD, or to say it in other words, the same record is submitted for all the presentations. Moreover, for products that are authorized in Belgium, Finland, and Luxembourg, we are receiving more than one record per product, because we need to receive one of it in each of the official languages that we have. So in order to group records in XEVMPD that belong to the same medicinal product, we have defined different business rules to group those records. Whenever several records in XEVMPD contain the same information in the following fields, then they will be grouped into the same medicinal product in PMS. So for all the records where we have the same marketing authorization holder, the same authorization country, active substance and strengths, and the same authorized pharmaceutical dose form, we will group them into the same medicinal product. Now, depending on the country, we will have a different business rule. So for all the countries except Belgium, Finland, and Luxembourg, we will group based on the product full name. For Finland and Luxembourg, we will group based on the authorization number. And for Belgium, we will group based on the MRP and DCP number and the authorization procedure. This information is explained in more detail, and I really recommend you to please go and review Chapter 7 of the EUIG, because there we will have additional examples. You can read it in more detail, which are the business rules that we are implementing for the initial migration of products from XEVMPD to PMS. It's important to understand that we will update Chapter 7 with some additional information by the end of the year. So we recommend you also to go and check once we update the information. Some examples where you can see here that we have 3 records in XEVMPD for the same owner. They are also authorized in the same country. You can see that the substances and the strength, you cannot see them, but I can tell you they are the same. The pharmaceutical dose form is also the same. The full presentation name, as you can see, is also the same, but the authorization number is different. In this case, we have 3 EV codes in XEVMPD, 1 per presentation. But as we explained before, we will group those records in XEVMPD because they have the same full presentation name, and they will be migrated into 1 medicinal product with 3 packaged medicinal products. Please take into account that in case you would have an additional dot, for example, in one of the names, that would mean that you would have 2 medicinal products. So you really need to take care how the data has been submitted to XEVMPD and how it is maintained in XEVMPD. Another example, we have 3 records for 3, in this case, medicine. You can see based on the name that we have 3 different medicinal products in Spain. We have 3 different medicinal products because we have 3 different strengths, 300 milligrams, 100 milligrams, and 200 milligrams. And also the authorization numbers are different. In this case, as the name of the records are different, we will have 3 medicinal products in PMS, each of them with 1 packaged medicinal product that will contain the authorization number that you can see here. As I explained before, if there are data quality issues in XEVMPD, you will be able to correct those data quality issues through XEVMPD, and those changes will be synchronized with PMS. It is really, really important that you check that there are no data quality issues in XEVMPD because this will result in incorrect migration of product and the generation of wrong products into PMS. And as I said before, you can find more information in the chapter 7 of the EUID. Something new that I would like to explain today is the XEVMPD deltas to PMS. So you can see here from the left side, the MA holder is submitting either through the Article 57 user interface, so EBWeb, or through the gateway, the XEVPRM messages to include the new marketing authorizations or to maintain the data that is already in XEVMPD. So whenever you have a variation that affects XEVMPD data, whenever you have a transfer, whenever you have a suspension, you are updating the data to in XEVMPD through XEVPRMs. This data is received in Article 57 database, and this data is used by different consuming systems. What we are doing is we are capturing those XEVPRMs that are used to maintain Article 57, and we are sending this information into PMS, or we will be sending this information to PMS to maintain the data that we will have initially migrated from the database. This is what we call the XEVMPD deltas. And obviously they are needed for example, because those products will be maintained, those products will be seen through the PLM portal in the EAF, they will be used in the EAF, etc., etc. All the information, all the business rules, all the examples, a really, really detailed guidance will be in principle released in Q4 this year. It's chapter 9, where we will explain how these XEVMPD deltas are working. Obviously, these deltas can be used to correct data quality issues in XEVMPD, but those deltas will be also used to receive in PMS new records. So whenever you have a new product that has been approved by a competent authority, you will submit it to XEVMPD, and it will appear thanks to the XEVMPD deltas in PMS and therefore in the PLM portal. Something very important. We have been performing some data quality checks, mainly for CAPs, but not only. We have also checked NAP data. And we have been performing, and we have also made some checks for data that we have been cleaning, let's say, previously. And we have seen that gateway users sometimes are not paying attention to the third acknowledgement that we are sending as part of our data validation. So as I explained before, a third acknowledgement is received when the EMA data stewards are performing a data validation. In the case where we are, for example, changing the name of a medicinal product or of an XEVMPD report to make it consistent with the rest of the records that you have submitted, because, for example, you might miss a hyphen, or if you have submitted 4 records for 4 different packages of the same medicinal product, 2 records might have a dot at the end of the name, but the other 2 don't. So what we are doing is standardizing the data. We are making sure that the data is consistent for the same medicinal product. Gateway users might not be checking this third acknowledgement, so every time they send an update for the same record, they are submitting again the mistake. And this will have an impact on how medicinal products are going to be captured in PMS. So here we really recommend you to check what we are doing with your data and make sure that there are no data quality issues and you don't submit and continually submit the same mistakes because you are not checking the corrections that or amendments that we are performing. Some FAQs that we have already received for XEVMPD and PMS. If your product is out of scope of Article 57, but you still need to use it, for example, in the web portal, the web-based EAF, there is already a process to submit products that are out of scope of Article 57. So, for example, the homeopathics that we were explaining before. If you need to use the web-based EAF for one of those products, you can submit those records directly into XEVMPD. There are guidances out there to understand how to make this, and it is already available. Once we are able to do the migration of XEVMPD data into PMS, it might happen that you don't find your product in the PLM portal. So what can you do? First of all, you need to check that the product is in XEVMPD. You need to make sure that it's not nullified and also that has the correct marketing authorization holder, so the name, the address, the EV code, that has data on the fields that I explained before, so the legal basis, pharmaceutical dose form, etc. If not, you will need to update the product and then it will appear in the PLM portal. You need to check, obviously, that you are the OMS, check that OMS to confirm that the EV code and the OMS ID mapping is correct, that you are logged in the PLM portal with the same organization, so you will be able to see the product. And in the case that everything that I have explained before is correct, but still you are not able to see the product, then you should raise a ticket and we will investigate why you are not seeing the product. Obviously, for the moment, if you go to PLM portal, you will only see CAP products. So don't raise any ticket because you are not able to see the national products because they are not there for the moment. Then what happens if the data, at some point, we will also release the product UI that you, as you might know, will be a user interface to see the product data that we have. So you will be able to see the information that we have migrated from XEVMPD. What happens if you see that the data that we have migrated is wrong? Well, as I have explained, XEVMPD and all the changes performed in XEVMPD will be synchronized with PMS through the XEVMPD deltas. So any change that you perform in XEVMPD will be propagated to PMS. So in case there is any data that is wrong, you can already start performing these updates in XEVMPD. Another question is related to the how long is it going to take the updates that I perform in XEVMPD to be seen in the PLM portal. So our idea is that our aim is to be able to have these updates in real time. Nevertheless, we know that there might be some performance problems at the beginning because we might receive a lot of XEVPRM messages that we will need to process in PMS. Nevertheless, for this quarter, we are already implementing a feature in PMS to improve considerably this performance on the system. Nevertheless, we will also make tests, and before these deltas to XEVMPD are live, we will be able to have a better idea on how long these deltas will take. Another question that we have received, and also that the EAF team is receiving every now and again, is when the non-authorized products will be has to be submitted in XEVMPD. We are talking about the MRPs and DCPs that have been approved by the reference member state, but are still under the national phase on the concerned member states. We are already in the process to deploy a new feature in XEVMPD, so you will be able to submit those products. This is foreseen to be in place in Q1 2024, but please, for the moment, do not submit any unauthorized medicinal product to XEVMPD. We need to give you the green light, and we need to explain how those products will have to be submitted to XEVMPD. So for the moment, don't submit those products. So in a nutshell, DMP submissions are still to be done in XEVMPD. The pending AMP submissions in XEVMPD that are needed for specific variations for these national products, please don't submit this data. We are trying to put this in place by Q1. In case you need to have these voluntary submissions for authorized medicinal products, that homeopathics or other products that you might need for the to be used in the EAF, you can start submitting this on a voluntary basis. The functionality already exists in XEVMPD, so feel free to use it. XEVMPD submissions are still mandatory and will still be mandatory for a while, because that's why we have explained how the XEVMPD to PMS deltas are working. There will be a point where we will, and you can see here, the long-term goal is to replace XEVMPD submissions with direct submissions to PMS for CAPS and NAPS. But for the moment, and until all the enablers are in place, XEVMPD submissions are still mandatory. In relation to the data enrichment to PMS, there are still no possible. We need to put in place some enablers. We need to allow the product UI to be in place, the edit pages of the product UI. We also need to grant the right access to the PMS API, so people who wants to submit the data through the machine-to-machine connection, they are also able to do it. And there will be a transition period expected for that. So for the moment, this is not in place. We are working on timelines. We will try to provide more information on when do we expect this to be in place. But for the moment, XEVMPD is the system who is going to update PMS. And Veronica, back to you.
Thank you very much, Marcos. And now we proceed with probably the session that everybody's been waiting for, the recent and planned activities related to XEVMPD. So as you might be aware, we have already performed some of the actions that we advertised in the previous webinar, which was in April this year. So there is currently, from mid-September 2023, a new process for requesting access to XCOM for training purposes. So as you know, we now use the XCOM, which is the test environment for XEVMPD, to perform the XEVMPD e-learning or face-to-face, which is now virtual training course So to date, what users had to do was that when they register for the XEVMPD training, whether it's with our training provider, which is the DIA, or for the e-learning, they used to be provided as part of the training registration confirmation with also a username and password to use to access this XComp environment. From mid-September 2023, the participants who wish to participate in this training have to request access to XComp for training purposes, and this is something I'm stressing out, for training purposes through the EMA account management portal. I will provide further information on this later as well. With regards to validation of newly submitted products, as we again advertised in April, we can confirm that this has now been increased from September 2023 from once a week to twice a week. So we are validating newly submitted products with new authorization faster than we did before. With regard to the submission of market new authorization holder information in the XEVMPD, this can now be submitted as per OMS guidance. Again, something that we advertised in April and something that can be done by you, market new authorization holders, from July 2023. With regards to request and inserts of XEVMPD terms via change request in RMS and or the service desk requests, this is again something that has been happening from July 2023. I will also go into details in the upcoming slides. And as you, as sponsors, are mainly aware, we have been performing a development substance cleaning activity. We started in July 2023 when we contacted sponsors. And we will be following up on this in the upcoming slides as well. So planned activities for the rest of this year and for the first 2 quarters of 2024. First, a little disclaimer. Please note that the activities for 2024 can be or will be adjusted based on the customer satisfaction survey results, which will be happening, I believe, later this month. In quarter 3 2023, with regards to XEVMPD customer services, we have been entering some information in the knowledge base as articles in the EMA service desk. We are continuing with this activity until the end of this year. So as I mentioned earlier today during the service desk webinar, please go into the EMA service desk, use the search panel to find articles for information that you might otherwise log as a request for information or a question. You can actually find some of the information proactively already without having to log the ticket to request the information. With regards to XEVMPD data management, as I've previously mentioned, market new authorization holders can now submit market new authorization holder organization information in the XEVMPD as per information submitted to OMS. I will be touching up on more details in the upcoming slides. The same is relevant for the process improvement, which is related to the request of creation of proposed terms via RMS. Again, more information will come up. In terms of XEVMPD data quality, we have started the development substance data clean exercise in July. And again, I will be providing further information on this in about 3 or 4 slides. What will happen in the next week or 2 is that QPPVs and responsible persons will receive an email from the EMA asking them yet again to review and confirm users registered for their organization in the EMA account management portal, and they will have to confirm whether these users are still active and whether their access should be revoked or should remain. This is something that we have already performed, I believe, in April as well. So this is happening the second time this year. It will be happening again next year on a 6-month basis. The initial demonstration run was completed by mid-July by 90% of the requested users. So this was quite successful. So please await the email. You will be asked to review as a QPPV or responsible person the registered users registered in the EMA account management portal for your organization. I will be providing more information related to the activities that are upcoming for us in Q1 2024, and that is the restriction of submission of proposed terms by sponsors and MAH, review of DMP information in the XEVMPD. I will provide some information on the activity that we also perform every January to March, which is related to the review of authorized medicinal products as part of pre-advice note checks. And also, I will be touching up on a new field, new authorization value that will be made available in the XEVMPD from Q1 2024. With regards to XEVMPD documentation, we aim to update Chapter 3.2 towards the end of this year, so towards the end of Q4 2023, to include some new information specifically related to this new authorization value, for example. And also, as we have promised in April, we are still reviewing and trying to condense some of the XEVMPD documentation. As you might be aware, we sometimes over-communicate, so there's a lot of information related to XEVMPD. We are trying to make this more user-friendly, maybe remove some of the unnecessary documents and put the information in another document in a better way. So please bear with us. This is a mammoth task, as you might be aware. As you know, this week and last week we have a SPOR week when we organize the various SPOR-related webinars. We will have the SPOR customer satisfaction survey upcoming either towards the end of the month or beginning of the next month. And in the beginning of the next year, we are planning to have another set of SPOR webinars. Also, what's coming up towards the end of this year is that we will be deploying multi-factor authentication in XCOMP. But again, I will provide further information on that. So, first topic to discuss or first update to provide is related to the marketing authorization holder organization details submission according to OMS rules and standards. As you know, at the moment, a marketing authorization holder should provide information of on the marketing authorization holder legal entity as the information is stated in the SMPC of the medicinal product. From July 2023, marketing authorization holders may also insert the marketing authorization holder information as this information was submitted into OMS. If the marketing authorization holder chooses not to submit the MAH information as it is in the SMPC, but as it was entered in OMS, then it is required that you reference the log ID in the comment field of the marketing authorization holder organization entity. You can do so for new marketing authorization holder organizations or also for existing if you wish to do so. Why are we doing this? To support successful PMS and EAF implementation and also to ensure information synchronization between XEVMPD and OMS. These systems might not be directly linked. However, we try to make sure that the data in both databases matches. I understand that for you as users, there's a change in the process. However, the benefit will be an improved data quality, and you are also less likely to have issues with PMS migration and data being used in EAF. So again, you can choose whether you wish to submit the MAH information in XEVMPD as it is stated in the SMPC or as it is entered in OMS, my apologies. If you enter the MAH information as it was submitted in OMS, you have to reference the log ID in the comment field. We will be checking this during the validation of authorized medicinal products. If the information related to the MAH organization, it's not as it is stated in the SMPC, and no log ID is referenced in the comment field, this will be raised during the validation as a follow-up communication with the marketing authorization holder. With regard to the submission of proposed terms, from July 2023, proposed terms or standard terms are requested via, you can request them via RMS. If the term is not available in RMS and it is available in XEVMPD, you should request that the term is submitted in RMS via new term change request. If the term is available in RMS but not in XEVMPD, then you should submit an update term change request via RMS. So in general, as you know, at the moment, marketing authorization holders and sponsors can submit and should submit proposed terms in the XEVMPD themselves via an XEVPRM. In general, you should always try and reference a standard term in your medicinal product. If this is not possible and a proposed term is available in XEVMPD, you should reference the proposed term. If the proposed term that you need for your product submission is not available in the XEVMPD, you can submit it in the XEVMPD yourselves through the XEVPRM, or from July until the end of 2023, you can actually ask our RMS colleagues via RMS change requests, whether it's for the new term or the update term, to be inserted in XEVMPD and RMS. Why are we doing it? Again, to support successful PMS and EAF implementation and also ensure that the data is synchronized in XEVMPD in RMS. Whilst, again, for you, this is a change in process, you will become familiar with requesting this data via RMS, and this will lead to improved data quality and less likely to have issues with the PMS migration and data being used in EAF. What we're also going to do is that from Q1 2024, we will restrict the submission of proposed terms in the XEVMPD. What it means that if you submit a proposed term as an MAH or sponsor in the XEVMPD, you will receive a negative acknowledgement, which will state that you are no longer allowed to submit this data in XEVMPD, and you must request the data submission for this particular term through RMS change request. With regards to the remap of development substances in DMPs to approved substances and the follow-up nullification of the obsolete development substance records, as sponsors are aware, in July you received a communication when we ask you to update your development medicinal product records, which reference a development substance, to reference an approved substance, which we provided as a replacement substance as part of the email, or provide supporting documentation to the SMS team to request an insert of a new approved substance. What we're trying to do is clean up the list of especially development substances, which, as you know, were historically submitted in the XEVMPD by sponsors. In October, and I've been told that it should be happening this week, the EMA will be performing the relinking of development where the sponsor chose not to do this relinking themselves. So we have given sponsors the option to either perform this relinking themselves, and I believe that was by the 1st of October, to be performed by the 1st of October. If this did not happen, we are doing this relinking on your behalf. And then in Q4 2023, when the development substance is no longer referenced in any development product, we will perform the nullification of the obsolete development substance records in the XEVMPD. Sponsors Sponsors then will be requested to use or reference approved substance EV codes in their development medicinal product instead of development substance EV codes. The impact on you is also that you have to update the information, and some sponsors might need to update the structured data in the clinical trial application in CTIS to reflect the update of the substance data in the DMP in XEVMPD. I've already mentioned the restriction of submission on proposed terms. A new activity that we will start performing from Q1 2024 is that we will start looking at development products submitted by sponsors and see if we can in some way, I'm going to say validate the information, but it's mainly just to do a consistency check on the information that is submitted by sponsors for development medicinal products. We will start with the development terms, again, which were submitted by sponsors, and those might or might not be referenced in development medicinal products. If these development terms are referenced in development medicinal products, we will try to find proposed and standard terms that could be referenced in those products instead. We will then contact the sponsors that are affected, ask them to perform an update of their DMPs, or request a new term to be inserted by the RMS team in the XEVMPD. So this new term can be then referenced in the development product. The impact on you is again that you will have to reference standard or proposed terms in EV codes instead of development terms, and you will need to update the development information. Please note that we do not have any timeline for this yet. We will share with you the further details of this activity in 2024. Again, this is something that will lead to a better quality of development medicinal product, mainly to address and improve the data before it is very heavily used in clinical trial information system. With regards to the review of AMPs as part of pre-advised note checks, we've already started this activity actually this year, I believe. What we do is that there's a small number of market new authorization holders with outstanding pharmacovigilance fee debts. So what we do is that we receive a list of these market new authorization holder organizations from our accounting colleague. We will then check the medicinal products which were subject to the pharmacovigilance fee, and they were basically the chargeable unit. Chargeable unit was created for these products, and we will then go and we will verify the market new authorization status of these authorized medicinal product with the information from the national competent authorities. In some cases, some of the organizations no longer exist, for example. However, they never updated the XEVMPD, so the medicinal product that they used to be an MAH for is still entered in the XEVMPD with a valid marketing authorization, which means that the advice note and obviously the invoice is then submitted for this particular product to the marketing authorization holder that not necessarily exists anymore. So the benefit of this is that we are trying to prevent further billing to be generated for that product where the marketing authorization is no longer valid. Now, with regards to the mutually recognized product and decentrally authorized products under the national phase to be submitted as pending products in the XEVMPD, as I mentioned before, we will make available in the XEVMPD from sometimes in Q1 2024 a new marketing authorization value. The value will be a valid pending national phase, and we will provide information on specific scenarios when this particular marketing authorization status value should be referenced in AMPs in Chapter 3.2 towards the end of this year. This value was added or will be added in the XEVMPD to support successful EAF implementation. The impact is that you will need to submit additional records in the XEVMPD. However, the benefit is that this will allow the transition period for the mandatory use of the web-based EAF by including such products in the XEVMPD. And I believe that's last but not least, MFA deployment in XCOMP. As you are aware, you already have to have multi-factor authenticator when you try to access the XEVMPD production environment. From Q1 2024, the multi-factor authentication will be deployed in XCOMP as well. Please note that this might be possibly Q4 2023. Okay, the reason why we're doing it is to increase security of the UDRA system. And obviously we understand that the impact on you will be that you need to set up the MFA credentials with the EMA to access XCOMP. As I mentioned before, XEVMPD and EV training participants already can request access to XCOMP via the EMA account management portal following the registration for the training course, either with DIA or here with the EMA for the XEVMPD e-learning. Now, key takeaways and conclusions. We hope that this presentation explained what are the submission requirements for marketing authorization holders on how authorized medicinal product data is currently managed in XEVMPD. Also, we reminded sponsors of their submission requirements and provided an overview of how development medicinal product data should be submitted in XEVMPD. My colleague Marcos has shed some light on the relationship between XEVMPD, PMS, and EAF, and we have shared with you some statistic and planned improvements for 2023 and part of 2024. Now, a little surprise, we have a short quiz for you to see whether you have been listening to this webinar. If you would like to all go to Slido, I'll give you a couple of minutes to connect. Okay, let's start, I think. First question. If two sponsor organizations are using the same unauthorized product in their clinical trials, each sponsor must submit the product information in the XEVMPD. Please let us know if this is true or false. Correct. I'm very happy to see that. Indeed, two sponsor organizations must submit the development product information in the XEVMPD. Next question, please. From Q1 2024, my organization will not be able to submit proposed terms in the XEVMPD. Is this true or false? And by that, we mean submit them through an XEVPRM, so medicinal product report message directly in XEVMPD. Again, very happy to see that. That is indeed true. You will be requesting the addition of these terms via RMS change request. EMA inserts development medicinal products information in the XEVMPD on behalf of sponsors. Is this true or not? That is false indeed. I'm very happy to see this as well. No, we do not submit DMP information on behalf of sponsors. You would not be able to maintain it for start. Organization inserted in OMS becomes automatically available for selection in the XEVMPD. Is this true or false? Ah, very close. So this is false. There is no direct link between OMS and XEVMPD. You have to submit information in the XEVMPD yourself. So you have to submit your MAH or sponsor organization information in OMS and then in XEVMPD. And the last question. The notification of successful completion of the XEVMPD training course is required from one person during the initial registration of the MAH or sponsor organization with Vigilance. Is this true or false? This is indeed true. So again, I'm very happy that you have understood why we limit the number of users or participants from one organization to register for the XEVMPD e-learning. The reason is that you only need, in theory, that one person to have the notification to register your organization in Vigilance, and then you're able to train others in your organization. I think we can go to the, oh, well done, Frank Daniel, 5 out of 5, and all the other colleagues. However, Frank Daniel was the fastest. So congratulations. Now we're gonna go to the live question and answer session.
Yep. So I think we can start with the most rated one. So when will be the PMS go live? So I'm also happy to see this question. PMS is already live. PMS already contains centrally authorized data coming from SciAmed. You can see the PMS products in the PLM portal, and they are already in used by the EAF. So you can see that, yeah, PMS is live. We have the centrally authorized product data coming from SciAmed. And I think there is another question later on, when are we going to have the NAPS data? So in principle, I will maybe later reply to this question. But for the moment, yeah, PMS is live with centrally authorized product data. Then we have another one, which is the by when is planned to the migration from XEVMPD to PMS. This info would be very useful for companies in order to check and verify the info. So we are working together. As you may already know, PMS is now under this agile way of working. So every 3 months, we are having this PI event where we are planning the work that we are going to do during the quarter. During this quarter, we have identified different issues and different bugs during the initial load and for the deltas that we are trying to solve. So the idea is to be able to solve all these issues during this quarter. There is a webinar planned for November. Together with the AF team, you will receive additional information on when do we need to, when are we going to plan this webinar? You will receive the invitation and we will provide additional feedback on the plan migration, the different timelines, etc. We will try to provide additional information during this webinar. So for the moment, we don't have additional information. We are working really, really hard to make this happen as soon as possible because we know and the network. So yes, please keep an eye on the different events that we have for PMS, the system demos, the webinars that we have, information that we are publishing on the PMS webpage to be up to date and to get the latest information that we are posting there. I think we can go maybe to the next one. So I think, Veronica, this is for you. Is it mandatory for the EU QPPV to have a direct access to the product management service? Sorry, no, this is for me again. Or can it be delegated from the MA holder? So the access that we are going to provide to PMS through the product user interface and also through the PMS API will be granted as user level through IAM. We will provide additional information here in chapter 1 of the EUIG. But it will not be as in XEVMPD. It will be based on user access. There will be a sport super user or PMS super user that will control those roles, but it will not be at the EU QPPV as it has been done for XEVMPD.
Okay, with regards to the second question for CTIS, if we are using product code of another company authorized in the EU, how to get its product EV code? Thank you. So if you are using the product in its authorized form, then in theory, the marketing authorization holder has already submitted the medicinal product information in the XEVMPD. If you have access to XEVMPD via the user interface, which is EVWeb, you can find this medicinal product based on the criteria. So you need to know what's the product, either authorization number or the product name or the MAH. You can perform advanced search to find this information, or you can submit a request for XEVMPD Article 57 services, where you provide us with the search criteria and we will do the search in the XEVMPD ourselves. And if an EV code is indeed available in XEVMPD for this product, we will provide it to you in response to your service desk ticket. Second question, is it mandatory to put UK registered products to XEVMPD under the Irish protocol, or is it just optional? So if the medicinal product authorized nationally, which means by the national MRP or DCP procedure by MHRA, has a valid marketing authorization in the territory of Northern Ireland, then this medicinal product falls within the scope of Article 57(2) requirements, which means, is the marketing authorization of that product valid in Northern Ireland? If yes, you have to submit this product information in XEVMPD. If no, and the marketing authorization is only valid in England, Wales and Scotland, then this is considered as the marketing authorization valid only in the rest of the UK, which means that the submission of this medicinal product information in the XEVMPD is optional. So if the product is valid, if the marketing authorization of the product is valid in the territory of Northern Ireland, you reference the country code XI, which corresponds to United Kingdom, Northern Ireland in the XEVMPD. If the marketing authorization is valid only in the rest of UK, then you can submit this medicinal product in the XEVMPD on voluntary basis. You reference United Kingdom with the country code GB in the medicinal product entry, and you can maintain this medicinal product on voluntary basis. Please know that we do not validate the information for such products. We only validate the information for products which are with a valid marketing authorization in the territory of Northern Ireland.
Okay, thank you, Veronica. The next question is related to the valid pending of national phase in XEVMPD. So those products that have been authorized in the reference member state but are still under the national phase on the concerned member states, and is related to if the MA holder should update Article 57 within the end of procedure, and when the national approval is reached, if a new submission should be performed in XEVMPD. So for the moment, I repeat it again, don't submit any of those products in XEVMPD. We will update chapter 3.2 with the relevant information, how those products will have to be managed, how the data will be managed, how those products will be updated once they have been approved. We are discussing this internally, and also we will be discussing this with the SMEs, the PMS subject matter experts, and we will provide additional information because we are still discussing how this is going to be done. So please keep an eye. Before this is also in place, we will advise all the users on how to do that, the relevant section of chapter 3.2, where we will be updating the data. So please bear with us because this is still under a bit of discussion what should be done during the approval of those products.
Okay. The next question is, please can you advise what would cause an authorized product not to be available in CTIS? The product in question belongs to a different marketing authorization holder, but is needed for our study. The UMP number and substance code have been used to search, but nothing was found. So first thing would be, are we sure that the medicinal product is not nullified in the XEVMPD? So if you have the medicinal product EV code, and you have also the substance EV code of the substance that is referenced as the active substance, so not as an excipient, but as the active substance in that product, unless the product has been nullified in the XEVMPD, you should be able to find this product. So if you are unable to find this product information in CTIS, please send us a request for information. So again, request information related to XEVMPD via the EMA service desk, reference the product name, the product EV code, as well as the active substance EV code that you have been using in CTIS, and we will confirm, we will do search in the XEVMPD and confirm if indeed this is the correct EV code for the product and for the substance. If the product is nullified, if it's active, this is the only answer I can give to this question at this moment. Please contact us through the service desk. When EV web contains voluntary DMP submitted within my company prior to the requirement of DMP EV codes for CTIS use, and if I'd like to clean the XEVMPD database for DMPs not used in clinical trials, can you advise how to proceed? For DMPs no equivalent to the authorized status, can we nullify this obsolete info? So the reason why development medicinal product data is entered in the XEVMPD is not only because CTIS submission. The medicinal product information that is used in a clinical trial must be entered in XEVMPD also to support the recoding of any ICSRs and SUSARs, which are suspected unexpected serious adverse reactions that we receive in eudravigilance. So even though that medicinal product that you're referring to might not be used in a clinical trial and therefore needs to be, a CTA needs to be submitted for this product, the product should remain in the XEVMPD as a development medicinal product in case we have received any adverse reaction report for that product. So the reason when you can nullify product entities in XEVMPD is if the medicinal product entity was submitted multiple times and thus creating duplicates, or if the medicinal product entity was submitted in error. For example, it was never supposed to be submitted. Okay, so I would recommend that you leave the development medicinal product entity in the XEVMPD as it is without nullifying. For CTIs, if we are using product of another company authorized in the EU, how to get its product EV code? So again, if you have access to XEVMPD, you can search based on the various criteria. If you don't have access to XEVMPD via EVWeb, then you can request the authorized product EV code by submitting a request for XEVMPD services through the EMA service desk. My colleagues have informed me that we have now closed Slido from new questions. However, we will try to answer all the unanswered questions that you can see on the screen at the moment. Kindly let us know if XEVMPD needs to be submitted for the product approved by MHRA via national MRPD-CP procedure by PA licenses. So I believe that I've already answered that. again, if the MA of that product or approved nationally by the MHRA is valid in the territory of Northern Ireland, then yes, you have to submit it in XEVMPD. If not, then you can submit it on voluntary basis only.
Yeah, I think we still have 1 minute. I would like to address this question because I think there has been a bit of confusion then here in the chat. So PMS is live because the PMS database already contains centrally authorized product data that is used by the PLM portal where the web-based EAF is managed. So there is no way for the moment to get access to PMS. We are developing a PMS product user interface such as Eudra Vigilance, so people will have access through the through a user interface to the PMS data, and we are also working on the PMS API to give access to machine connection. We recommend you to go to the system demos that are recorded in our YouTube channel, because there we are showing how the user interface looks like. We are providing additional information, and we also recommend you to keep an eye on our web page and all the different events that we are organizing for in relation to PMS. So hopefully this is now answered. Do we have time still for? Yeah, okay. The next question is how often the sync between PMS and XEVMPD will occur. So our idea is that this synchronization is going to be done in real time. The only problem is that it will depend on the amount of XEVPRMs that we need to process. So what will happen is that those XEVPRM will be stored in a queue, and we will be processing them as they arrive. What we are working now in this quarter is to improve the performance of this synchronization, so we can achieve as real-time synchronization as possible. For the moment, we cannot provide more information about that because we are working on the improvement. So once we have additional information, maybe we will be able to share a bit more information on how long would you need to wait until you can see the changes in PMS that has been submitted into XEVMPD.
So the next question is related to how often are XEVPRMs submitted by marketing authorization holders, how often they are reviewed, and third, acknowledgement, which is the validation acknowledgement, is sent to MAH. We observed that there are some XEVMPD submissions performed in 2022, but we have not received third acknowledgement to date. So we validate newly submitted medicinal products within the 2 weeks since they were submitted. This is for new authorizations. If we cannot validate for some reason, you will receive a follow-up communication from the EMA. So this could be one of the reasons. Maybe you have received a follow-up communications because we were unable to validate these products. This could be anything. It could be master file location is missing, the SMPC is unreadable, etc., etc. So you need to check your WebTrader inbox if you are a WebTrader user, or you need to check with your gateway provider if you received any communication like that. Also, please note that we do not validate every single update of information that is performed on a medicinal product. We do perform validation, I believe, within 2 years, we said, or as it is required. However, not every update will be validated, and therefore you will not receive the third acknowledgement for each and every update that you submit. We do not perform validation on products that have been, or product entries that have been nullified or that have been invalidated. So again, if your medicinal product entry references not valid marketing authorization status, you will not receive any further XEVPRM acknowledgements related to the validation. If you want for us to check, please send us the list of specific EV codes through the EMA service desk using the request for XEVMPD services, and we will look into it.
Okay, for the next question, could the addition of products out of the scope of XEVMPD could be done in by anticipation? No. So before starting any activity on these products, Well, you can submit that only if the medicinal product is authorized. Please take into account that for the moment, XEVMPD is only capturing authorized medicinal product data. So if those medicinal products, even if they are out of a scope of XEVMPD, if they are not authorized, they should not be submitted to XEVMPD. So hopefully this is clear now. Then the next question is a bit, I don't know if I understand this correctly, so maybe I would recommend you to send it to the service now so we can discuss that, because in theory, the PMS ID is not available for any national product, so France should not be requesting any PMS ID unless we understand the same by PMID. So please, if you can send us this information through service now with a bit more information, we would be able to investigate a bit more on this question. The next question is, if information about invalid marketing authorizations are not available in the present SMPC, should invalid authorization also be handled in PMS? This is a question that we have raised, and we will continue the discussion with the PMS subject matter experts. Obviously, we are migrating records from XEVMPD where the authorization status is non-valid because those records have been invalidated. So we need to discuss with the network, with NCAs, and with industry, how are we going to handle those invalid records. We might not request industry to submit additional information, but we still need to discuss with them. Nevertheless, the time when the enrichments or the when the applicants will have to submit additional information is not yet closed. So you still have time, and we still have time to discuss and provide additional information on this matter. So for the moment, I cannot provide you additional information. Sorry.
I will just quickly ask you to populate a survey. My colleague will put up on the screen very shortly. We would like to ask you to take some time and create a survey as a feedback to this webinar, so we know where we need to improve for the next session. If there's something you would like to have more of, if there's information that you find obsolete, we don't have to repeat it. So if you could please take a few minutes and fill in the survey, as this feedback is very important to us. We will leave this survey open for the next 20 minutes. However, we will continue to answer your questions in the meantime as well. So thank you very much for this. Okay, and I'm going to go back to the next question. What should I do if my EV code of our DMP shows as nullified in the XEVMPD and I want to start a new clinical trial? What is the process of reinstating the code? So first of all, we need to assess why the DMP EV code is nullified. Is it a duplicate of another development medicinal product, or was it nullified by the marketing authorization, by the sponsor by mistake? Please let us know through the EMA service desk request, where you can request that we assess this EV code, and if this EV code was nullified by mistake, we can, in very exceptional circumstances, request that the product is denullified, so it's brought back into the valid status by performing a data fix on this particular EV code. So please send us the EV code of the development medicinal product with the justification through the service desk request, and we will see whether or not this DMP EV code can be reinstated. What you could also do is that you also enter the information about the development medicinal product as a new information. This means that you will receive a new DMP EV code, which you will then be able to find in CTIS. Who do I contact to confirm that I am the primary contact of the owner organization so that I can retrieve my product code and reactivate it. A lot of personnel changes at the company has resulted in loss of authorized contact person. I'm not entirely sure I understand. So if your organization is registered in EudraVigilance and you have, presuming that you are a marketing authorization holder, you do have a QPPV assigned to your organization profile, then you should be registered as a user under this organization. Or if you do not have a QPPV assigned to your organization profile, then your organization must nominate a QPPV that will then self-register for that organization profile in the EMA account management portal. The QPPV will then be able to approve other users' access, for example, yours, and then you will be able to access the XEVMPD to find the information that you require. Okay, so first of all, I don't understand why you wouldn't have access if you are registered users for your organization profile. So if you do have a QPPV, please check if you have access by checking your EMA account management profile. If you do have an active and current QPPV, then ask them to approve your access or check your access. If you do not have a QPPV associated with your organization, you must have a QPPV for all the other registered users to access XEVMPD. Another question. At the moment in XEVMPD, we have United Kingdom, Northern Ireland. Can you confirm if UK Northern Ireland will be removed from XEVMPD? No. So as I've mentioned before, if the marketing authorization is valid in the territory of Northern Ireland, then you have to submit the information about this medicinal product in the XEVMPD reference UK Northern Ireland with the assigned country code XI as the marketing authorization country in the XEVMPD. So this will remain. We have to distinguish between UK Northern Ireland and just UK. This is why you will always have United Kingdom Northern Ireland with the country code XI and then United Kingdom with the country code GB. And these country codes need to be referred to or referenced in the medicinal product entries respectively. Is it optional to submit supporting documentation with the DMP in the XEVMPD? Yes, it is optional to submit the supporting documentation or attachment to a development medicinal product entry in the XEVMPD. Can you be more precise in terms of when will the EMA release the publication of Chapter 9 XEVMPD deltas in Q4, and how can we ensure to receive it?
Actually, what I'm doing right now is finalizing the chapter. Then I need to send this to the SME so they can review it and provide the feedback. And as soon as we have the green light from them that everything is fine, then we will just make this chapter public. In principle, you should not miss it. It will be published together with the other chapters from the EUIG in the PMS webpage. We have already pasted, or at least I have pasted the webpage in several of the questions that we have received, but you can find it quite easily. So all the chapters from the IDMP and the EUIG are stored in the same web page, so please review them and check them because they are very important for the implementation of PMS. I would say that we are repeating some of the questions already, so maybe we will try to address the ones that we have not replied already in Slido, so please have a look at them. And if needed, we can include maybe some of them or our Q&As if we see that there is any very common question that has been raised a couple of times. So I think said that, thank you very much for attending the webinar. Thank you very much for all your questions and also for the feedback that you have provided on the survey. And we will see you in the next webinars that we have planned for this week. And yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for attending.